The 25-26 Ashes, from an English point of view, were a disaster, and we're still having this ongoing sort of inquiry or review into it. But I think even before the review, we've got to take a step back and look at the way it unfolded in Australia a few months ago. What's that telling us? What are the ECB telling us about what's important to them, what's important in English cricket, and where their priorities lie? So this is Lee Nedge. Welcome to the show. And today we'll be discussing a bit of the fallout from the Ashes. So I will hold my hands up and I'll say I thought we had a reasonable chance to definitely compete in Australia. I remember having a chat with a mate in about October, a few weeks before it started. My view was it would be either 2-2 or 3-2 either way. On account of the fact it's good weather and England play attacking cricket and they're moving the game forward. If you had to push me, I would have probably said Australia in their home conditions would have taken it. But, I mean, they bested us completely. And look, if they'd have had, Cummings and Hazelwood in the game we won at Melbourne, it could easily have been 5-0. We just happened to get on the best side of that. But it was over in its earliest possible time after 3 games, within about 10 and a half days of cricket. And, when I was surmising it before it started, I was presuming Australia would have their full team. But they didn't. They had one bowler, really, for the most of the series. They had Stark, who is a champion bowler. They only had their captain for 1 game. And yes, they had 2-3 exceptional batsmen, but the rest could be got at. It was aging/out of form batting lineup. And England, in that first test, they picked everybody they wanted to pick. I don't think there was a single player that they would have changed in that lineup. I know that obviously then Wood ended up getting injured, and of course Archer gets injured because that's what Archer does, and it unfolded from there. But we had a much more settled side. We had the side we wanted, and Australia simply outplayed us. And to lose that first test within 2 days from the position we were in after day one, after lunch, was unforgivable. So for me, it comes down to preparation, and that's preparation from the ECB, the coaching staff, and then the players. And quite frankly, all is lacking. But look, first of all, we have to start off with the preparation of the tour. If you think you're going to go to Australia and just rock up and play a friendly intra-England warm-up match with your mates from the Lions and have a successful tour, you're very sorely mistaken. I mean, we know what the blueprint is from the Strauss tour. Okay, they played 3 tour games. They played their first team. They want to win every game. They want to set that standard and harden themselves to play cricket in Australia. And look, you can say to me, well, we had a better team in 10-11 and better players. Yes, we did. But I don't think this Australia team was like the team they had in 17-18, and I think we had some players that were equally as good as them, if not a step up. But we didn't prepare, and look what happens. And then there's the attitude afterwards, right? It's all well and good. They think they know better. They think they know better than you and I. They think they know better than the ex-pros. To call people like Vaughan, Boycott, Botham, has-beens, was really poor choice of words from Stokes. I know he apologised, and I don't doubt that he regretted using those choice of words, but I think the sentiment from him and the camp remained the same. We know better than you. Things have changed. Warm-up games aren't that important anymore. And obviously for you and I in the outside world looking in, we know that's absolutely nuts. There were, however, 2 other things that were planned well in advance. One was the Noosa trip. So that seems to be the priority. No warm-up games, but I understand that McCullum likes Noosa. He's been out there before, so there was a nice trip, golf, beers, etc., etc. In isolation, not that bad a thing. But when you look at it in context of everything else that went on, it looks really poor, because the one thing that was organised right was a bit of a break in the middle of the trip. And the players do need a break, but that should only be factored in once warm-up games and a proper structure and coaching and the right coaches and the right coaching setup have been put in place. So it's no good planning these things. And when you go there 3-0 down, it just looks appalling. The media's on your back by that point. And that was a really poor thing, to plan so far in advance when you're not even getting your coaching team in place. The other thing was they jettisoned Jimmy Anderson. Now, look, I get Anderson had a poor 2023 Ashes, but he came back well after that. I saw him play Chesterfield for Lancashire against Derbyshire last summer. He was the best bowler by a country mile. I saw him in his last Test match live at Lords against the West Indies. He was bowling as well as ever. You're not telling me that Jimmy Anderson would not have been our best bowler in the day-night Test in the Ashes. We bowled short and wide and just tried to bang it in when it was swinging and moving everywhere. And you might say, well, he's 42, 43. I get that. Personally, I don't think he was quite finished. I think there was a bit more. He could have played, obviously, the pink ball test. He could have probably played one more, maybe the Melbourne test, and he'd have been an excellent member to have as part. And also, there's a high probability chance he'd be fit, which is something, that Wood and Archer just can't provide us with. So they have made some key long-term decisions, and that turned out to be poor ones. And then you contrast that with the decisions that weren't got into place. There was no fielding coach. Our fielding was shambolic. We dropped a load of catches at key times and gifted things to Australia. Maybe you can tell me what's happened to Paul Collingwood. I have no idea what's happened to Paul Collingwood. He seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Trescothick was sort of batting coach / assistant coach. Saker was brought in at the last minute to be bowling coach. These are the priorities that should be set up a year, 18 months in advance, not the trips. And it just, by the time you saw where the setup was, McCullum, I think he's described his setup as informal, and he made no apologies for that. But really, it's inept. You have to have the structure right so that the players, can play at their best. And then you get on one step slightly further. Like, what are these players being coached? Why are they playing shots like Harry on the second day of the first test when we're ahead of the game? Mitchell Starc comes on. He's the only bowler in that test. Why are we not just soaking up the pressure and taking some time out of the game and waiting and then going when their secondary bowlers coming on? So what's the preparation? What are the players preparing for? Because especially the batsmen, from what I see, they got their shots. They're going to use their feet. They're going to move. They're going to ramp. They're going to uppercut, and they're just going to play all their shots. But it doesn't work. Okay, we haven't beaten Australia or India in the whole of the Bazball era, home or away. So where's the preparation? Where's the plan B? Kevin Peterson is a fantastic player. He didn't always come out and smash it. Okay, his being positive was, he might take a step early doors. He got a bit of bat on ball, bang, he got a single, he got down the other end. He gets the legs moving, he gets the blood flowing. Or you can leave it and be positive. There are different ways to be positive rather than just foot to the floor, shot after shot after shot. And there just doesn't seem to be the preparation, the coaching. Everything was just this sort of laissez-faire attitude. We're going to go out and play. And it just didn't work. And there seems to be, going back to the point of this video, there seems to be quite a divide between what's important to people like me, people who are genuine fans of the game, supporters of the game. I spent a large portion of my life playing a lot of cricket as well. The Ashes is the pinnacle. Series against Australia and India are the pinnacle in the Test matches, and that's what's important. Now, what the ECB have let happen and what has taken over is, August is playing some bullshit 100 competition, which is fake, made-up cricket. It doesn't even have overs, okay? They can't even use the traditional scoreboards because the way the game's structured, it doesn't... why nobody else in the world plays that game, plays that format of the game? There is no need for that format of the game. We have 2020, which lasts for half an hour longer. So what is the point, and why is the key part of our summer taken up with this? And that's the way, the priorities have gone. Australia prepared properly for the Ashes, okay? They were ready to play red ball cricket. We were not. Why did we go to New Zealand to play a white ball series in October, a few weeks before the Ashes? I went to play in New Zealand in 08-09. I arrived second week of October 2008. It was freezing. It was piss wet through. We had to play on artificial pitches, what little cricket we could play. And to go and play a white ball series, not even red ball cricket. When have we ever done that before? I'm completely lost on that one. To go to New Zealand, play that series, then just rock up in Australia. I bet they played, by the time the Ashes was over, we played about 10.5 days cricket. I bet they played more days of golf in the preceding months. I would honestly bet good money on that. And it's, to me, the whole thing, there was a certain amount of hope there and anticipation. The build for the series was huge, and the way England gave it away was shocking. And as we're finding out now, as we're going to come on to in other videos, there doesn't seem to be much change coming. Anyway, that concludes it for this one. I'm out of here, and I'll speak to you in the next video.